Anything to tell us from what you spoke about afterwards with some of the players and the coaches, or what you heard in the press conferences, Sid?
Well, it's quite interesting listening to Alex Ramiro talking about the difference between the scoreline and the way that the game was played, and that sense that you get into a position where you kind of can't believe it, but at the same time, you also know it can happen. And you know it can happen. Obviously, Real Sociedad today hit the post 3 times. But the way he put it is you know it can happen the first time. So when you miss that first chance, you're already thinking, this is the kind of thing we pay for. You miss the second one, and now you're thinking, this is really the kind of thing you pay for. And then you miss a third. Well, I say you miss. All of these have come off the back of the woodwork, and you kind of know it's going to happen against Real Madrid. Real Sociedad, by the way, this is a 3rd defeat at home this season out of 3. They were beaten on the last day of last season as well, so it's 4 in a row not winning here. But it was different today, I think, in terms of the level of the performance. And, of course, what it also does is in terms of giving you the analysis of Real Madrid, it tells you that Real Madrid got a victory, but again, haven't played well. Here's the stat for you. Real Madrid, 5 goals this season, 4 of them from the penalty spot.
Wow, we want to stay on the penalty spot situation here because we saw 2 different penalty takers today, Sid. What's going to be made of that, and what can we take from it?
No, we knew this was going to happen, to be honest. Carlo Ancelotti was asked about this, I think about 3 weeks ago. Obviously, we've had the international break, so it may have only been 1 game back. And he said that I've told them that between them, Mbappe and Vinicius can discuss it, and they can take it in turns if they want. They can just give it to the player who feels most confident at that point. The fact that it was 2 today, of course, makes it perfect because it means there's no sense of someone getting the opportunity before the other. So I think we will see this throughout the season, that these 2 will continue to share penalty-taking duties, unless, of course, we get into a little run where one or the other of them starts missing them. And I think what that does, of course, as much as anything else, it tells you something about that balance. And we were talking pre-game about this idea that players sometimes have of feeling like their status is under threat, of wanting to show, if they're a new player, that they're not here to take anything away from anyone else and wanting to make sure that they're welcome. And I think this is a kind of part of that. And we saw it a little bit, didn't we? I think in the celebration. So when Mbappe scored, Mbappe did the Mbappe celebration with his hands tucked under his armpits, but so did Vinicius, and I think that's very deliberate. And I think they have been trying really hard so far this season to demonstrate to people that they are not a problem for each other. Now, obviously, we've seen that tactically there are difficulties, but they're trying to show that at least on an emotional and on a status level, they're not a threat to each other.
So tell us what you thought from your opinion of Real Madrid today. Obviously, you just gave us that stat on the penalties, and that's not what we'd be used to for a Real Madrid. Starting this season, we've already seen them dropping points. What have you made of them so far, Sid?
Well, tonight I didn't think they were very good at all. That said, there's a few things to add to that part of the analysis. Is that they did have 2 or 3 very good chances. You have the Mbappe one that goes just wide. Alex Ramiro makes one absolutely fantastic save, and so they generated a small handful of chances today. Not very many, but a small handful of chances. I thought that it was remarkably easy for Real Sociedad to come through the middle of them. And I think that will really concern them. I thought that they found it very difficult to bring the ball out from the back. Now, it's possible that that's exaggerated by the fact that I was sitting behind the goal and I could watch that back 4 move the ball backwards and forwards between them, or even to Courtois at times, and think there isn't really a way out because Real Sociedad were pressing very, very high and making it difficult for them. And I think what that tells you is that there's some structural issues, that there are things that aren't working. Now, they've got so much talent that they will eventually score goals, even if they do have to come from the penalty spot. But structurally, it's not entirely working. That said, of course, it's really important that we point out that today this happens with 4 midfielders missing. So Bellingham, Camavinga, Tchouaméni, and my mind's gone blank. Who's the other one? There's a 4th anyway. Dani Ceballos, who probably wouldn't have started anyway. But that's 4 midfielders missing. So you look at their midfield today, you say Valverde is the deep line midfielder, which isn't really his role. Modric, who's 39, brilliant player, but he's 39. And Arda Güler, who Ancelotti is trying to turn into an inside midfielder, but it's not his natural role. And they are genuinely the only 3 midfielders they had today. And so I think you do need to take the analysis a little bit into account, take those kind of elements into account before we start saying it's just not working. But yeah, I mean, really and truly, they are missing a certain German guy called Tony, who was really important for them in terms of the fluidity of the play. And that is going to be a problem moving forward. It's not to say they won't find solutions. I think they probably will. But in terms of the structural side of things, in terms of how they're actually playing, they haven't had a good start to the season. So it's still very early, though.
In terms, then, Sid, of the midfielders that they can call upon in the squad, even if they're injured at the moment, what is the latest status on the likes of a Tchouaméni and a Bellingham?
Well, we think that both Tchouaméni and Bellingham should be fit for the Champions League game on Tuesday night. In fact, there was a suggestion that they might even make this game. And Ancelotti, in the press conference yesterday, said, no, they're not ready. We hope and we'll see if they're ready for Tuesday. So obviously that makes a very big difference, not least because Tchouaméni will be the sitting midfielder and that will give a degree of freedom to someone like Valverde. Now, we talked about this earlier in the season. The way that Real Madrid are set up, or the way it looked like Real Madrid were going to set up, and let's see if this doesn't change at some point, because I suspect it might. It's essentially a back four plus Tchouaméni, a front three plus Bellingham, and poor old Fede Valverde having to do all the running in the huge space between those two blocks and having to do it on his own. Now, I think they will, with time, try to reduce that space. They will, with time, try and bring those two lines closer together. So it's not just Fede Valverde doing endless shuttle runs between the two blocks of the pitch. And I think what we will see is that we will see a shift in that midfield. And I wonder as well, actually, whether it might be that this is the opportunity that Camavinga's been waiting a long time for to play with real regularity and to really be in the starting 11 almost every week.
Okay, well, we look forward to seeing what's next from Real Madrid. Sid, we're going to let you go and get some rest now. Thanks so much for being with us tonight on ESPN FC.